Welcome back. Well, South Africa's super teams will now participate in the newly formed Rainbow Cup competition next year. The move to the Northern Hemisphere follows a new Super Rugby model which excludes the Sharks, Bulls, Lions and Stormers. The new tournament will run from the 17th of April to the 19th of June. And in studio, we are joined by President of the Blue Bulls Rugby Union, Willem Strauss. Good morning, Willem. I know you had to wake up quite early to make it here in studio today with us, and we really appreciate it. So it's big news, the Rainbow Cup. You know, we did expect that move up north. So the Sharks, Lions, Bulls, as well as the Stormers are going to be participating. Is it the right move for SA Rugby?
Yes, Nani, thank you for having me as well. And starting off with a very nice blue boy outfit you're wearing this morning. Yeah, no, it's exciting times. You know, after 25 years playing Super Rugby, it's the Vodacom Bulls won 3 times. We'll be heading out to new challenges in Europe, and I think everybody's excited about it. You know, it's logistically practical, makes a lot of sense. And a very, very exciting competition, this Rainbow Cup, that will lead into an expanded Pro 14 competition later in the year. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Super Rugby was considered one of, the strongest and probably best competitions within rugby. Are there any concerns about the kind of standard of quality we'll expect in the Rainbow Cup?
Look, those Pro 14 clubs is some of the strongest in the world. A club like Leinster have been dominating the European scene for the last decade or so. Most of those teams are loaded with international players from Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. Actually, a lot of South Africans playing for them as well. So it's going to be very, very tough opposition, that's for sure. Yeah. But I just think from a travel and our logistical perspective, so it's much easier to go north-south than going east as in Super Rugby.
But, I mean, at the same time, I mean, you mentioned it yourself just now, the Bulls have won Super Rugby 3 times, the only team in the country to have won a Super Rugby. So there must be a little bit of sadness knowing that you're not going to be participating anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially the New Zealand teams, our supporters and our players really love playing against them. The high tempo, high intensity type of game. Super Rugby was excellent, but, all good things come to an end, I guess, as well. And like I say, in terms of the exposure we're going to have in the Northern Hemisphere, it's an opportunity for us at the Vodacom Bulls to grow our brand. There's a lot of ex-South Africans working and living in the UK as well, so we might have some good support there as well. And, in terms of the World Cup in 2027, I guess for the national coach, it's great for the leading South African players to be playing in Europe as well. The British and Irish Lions tour that will hopefully take place next year as well. So, I think a lot of benefits going north at this stage.
Yeah, and you mentioned, those rivalries with the New Zealand teams. I mean, one that comes to mind is the rivalry between the Bulls and the Crusaders. I mean, watching those encounters would be like watching the Springboks up against the All Blacks. So, hopefully looking forward to new rivalries in the new competition.
Yeah, 100%, and you're absolutely 100% right. That was great rivalries as well. But I think, the likes of Leinster and Munster and Glasgow and Edinburgh and the Welsh clubs, it's going to be interesting games. And I guess you will have to adapt your game a little bit, especially in the UK with the climate conditions. But for them, it will be also a challenge to come to South Africa and harder and faster fields. But it's going to be great.
So the Bulls were declared the winners of the first ever Super Rugby Unlocked competition. You're looking good in the Currie Cup. Does this signal, like that you're back to winning ways?
Yeah, for sure. I think we used the lockdown to reset Bulls Rugby. We brought in a world-class coach like Jake White, appointed a very exciting new young CEO, Edgar Rathbone, changed a little bit of our structures, etc. Jake got a squad together that is well balanced, especially between youth and experience. But this is only the beginning. We won the Under-21 national competition and then the Vodacom Super Rugby Unlock. Definitely striving towards winning the Currie Cup this year, and then looking at the challenges overseas as well. But hopefully we are entering a new and exciting era. I think we've made some brave decisions over the past 2 years to get to this stage and to lay the foundation for a new, hopefully, golden era.
And just speaking of Jake White, I mean, he's absolutely immense, a Rugby World Cup winning coach, and now he's the director of rugby. Just talk to me about the contribution that he has made to the resurgence and the success.
Jake's record speaks for itself, wherever he was, Montpellier, the Brumbies, Japan, Toyota, wherever he was, he made a difference. Like you said, with the Springboks, he won the World Cup, so you can't take his record away from him. And he's a student of the game, and I love working with him. And I'm sure that in his tenure at the Bulls, we're going to win a lot of trophies.
Yeah, and I'm looking at, COVID-19 has had such a terrible impact on all sporting codes and their finances. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, the Bulls seem to be doing quite comfortably. Is it with thanks to people like Johan Rupert and Patrice Motsepe, who are your equity partners?
Absolutely, Nani. I think we must be the envy of the rugby world to have the likes of Mr. Rupert, his company Remgrow, and Mr. Patrice Motsepe involved. I was at Mamelodi Sundowns 50th celebrations the other evening as a guest of Mr. Motsepe, and he said to me in Afrikaans, Willem, ons bloed is blauw. Our blood is blue. So he's a great Blue Bulls fan as well. And I mean, where in the world will you have better equity partners than those? So, exciting times for the Vodacom Bulls.
Yeah, and also just in the aftermath of the COVID-19, in fact, we're still dealing with COVID-19, the second wave. What do South African rugby unions need to do? What does SA Rugby need to do to make sure that, South Africa remains a powerhouse nation in terms of rugby, and to also make sure that the Currie Cup still stays one of the biggest competitions?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, it's great this year, the Currie Cup, as it's worked out, full strength and a double round. I guess it won't always be possible in future due to the international fixtures. But I think very important, and going forward, the professional side is one part of the game. It's 1% of the game. The other 99% is the school systems, the club systems. So I think we're going to have a huge challenge, and we have to make it a priority to get amateur rugby up and running. March, middle of the 2021, whenever that will be possible. So it's always that balancing act in having your feeder systems strong to have the professional sides going well. But I think in terms of the competitions, yes, it was great having the Currie Cup on full strength at full strength this year. Combining that with possible European competitions going forward, and Springbok fixtures might not always be the case. But it's always a balancing act to have the best of both ways. Yeah,
I mean, you've been CEO of the Mpumalanga Pumas before, and just looking at that, do you ever see a future where teams like the Free State Cheetahs, the Pumas, the Griquas are part of big international competitions?
Yeah, definitely. I grew up in Bloemfontein.
Yeah.
So I got a soft place for the Cheetahs. But, hopefully them, especially them and also the EP Kings, I mean, it's a big part of South African rugby, and even the Pumas and the Griquas, as you mentioned, and if they could be somewhere along the line, be accommodated in some kind of competition overseas, that will be brilliant. I know that SA Rugby, Mr. Mark Alexander and Mr. Yuri Roo, who has done a hell of a job during this difficult, challenging year, is working very hard on getting that off the ground. So I'm quite sure that somewhere in the future that will definitely happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've also seen news just yesterday, I think, of former Stanza CEO Andy Marinos is now CEO of Australian Rugby, rather. How does that make you feel? What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Andy is a very experienced administrator. Obviously, South African. He was actually born in Zimbabwe, but he will add a lot of value. I have no doubt about that. He was involved with SA Rugby. I actually met him in Dubai 16, 17 years ago when he was the CEO of the Gwen Dragons. He played international rugby. He was involved with Rugby League in Australia, so he's got the CV, that's for sure.
Yeah, and also we saw a lot of signings from the Bulls. It was absolutely very clear that it was trying to reinvigorate the team. How have those new signings gelled into the side?
Well, obviously very well. After last year's Super Rugby campaign, where we had a very much of a super team with the likes of Andre Pollard and Jesse Creel and Kloot and RG Snyman and the likes of them, we obviously lost a lot of players, mostly just due to the exchange rate, Nanny. When you can earn 20 rand against a pound, then it's very difficult to hold on to those players. But since Jacques came in, he's recruited very, very well. Like I said, he's an astute recruiter. He's a brilliant coach, and he's put together a well-balanced side. This is not the end. We're still going to strengthen our side and strengthen our depth going forward. As I said, playing the pro teams in Europe, they got a lot of depth in their sides with Samoans and Fijians and Tongans and New Zealanders and Aussie international players. So we'll need to strengthen our squad, but we're definitely en route in doing that.